Welcome to the Funded Now What podcast with your host, Andrew Lee Miller, brought to you by Growth Experts. You're in store for a chat about funding, marketing, startups, and all things growth.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Funded Now What podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Lee Miller, also known as Andrew Startups, and I'm super excited today because we've got an AI startup in the construction space, and you don't hear that very often. So even more exciting, he's based in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Bisrat Degefa, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Andrew. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. So you just raised $1 million. You moved from Oxford, from England over to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Not an easy move, a little bit of a culture shock, but we don't need to talk about that. But it's also becoming one of the business capitals of the world. So tell me about it. What are you doing now that you got this $1 million? Let's go right into it.
Yeah, sure. No, so yeah, I mean, reason we moved out here to launch the business is Saudi's obviously at the moment it's the center of construction around the world. I think they're building the size of 3 Belgiums as we speak. So when I initially said I want to do my construction tech because of my background, it made sense to move to Saudi and be at the heart of it to launch it and grow it. So it's been good. We just raised $1 million from some strategic investors. We managed to get all the investors that we managed to get on board are somewhat connected to the industry. So we have the likes of Wired Ventures, which is the venture arm of Saudi Aramco. We have Dar Ventures, which is the venture arm of Dar Al Handasa. And we have a few strategic angel investors, which held senior leadership roles within leading engineering consultancy. So we were quite picky with who we wanted at the cap table.
So you moved out there and then raised the funding in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah. All the money is except for in fact, all the money's within the Saudi Arabia except for 1 or 2 of the angels.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And are you missing the weather in England at all?
No. So truth be told, no. It's definitely more grey than it is sunny. So no, not the weather, but maybe a few extracurricular activities.
Of course. No, but you're in store for your first Saudi summer, right? Coming up this summer,
Well,
and so
yeah. I'm bracing for it. I did used to live out in Qatar about 10 years ago, so I'm ready for it. I'm ready for it.
So tell me deeper about the product. What can AI do for the construction space that doesn't already exist in the tech companies that are there?
So what can AI do is a good question. So my former life, shall I say, I was formerly global director at some of the world's leading engineering consultancies, and I was leading the digital transformation for those organizations, looking at how we can implement different softwares and technologies to improve the way we do engineering, design, construction, and then final operation. And then about 2 years ago, when AI started really popping up on people's radar, I started to kind of dabble in it. And then when I started first looking at some of the things around large language models and stuff like that, I then said, okay, this is scary because I know the work that we do in construction and I know the mistakes that we make and how long it takes us to do things. And in its current stage 2 years ago, it was clear to me that it could really automate quite large chunks of, say, some elements of project management, some elements of commercial management and procurement, things that are more administrative, paperwork based, heavy document based kind of processes. So, so at that time when I'd seen, okay, if AI can do this 2 years ago, where is it going to be in 5 years? And rather than being on the following side, I said, no, let me quit my role within the company I was working at, and let me invest all my time into seeing how we can make AI work for construction. And that's the journey that we've been on.
Really amazing. And for anybody that has never lived in the Middle East, like everything paper and documents wise is always like a bukra, inshallah, like tomorrow, hopefully it'll get done. And so even more than construction in another place, I think it's safe to say that, leaving that up to software and getting that moved along would mean the difference of like 6 to 12 months of a project getting done probably. So that's really incredible. And it makes sense why all these incredible, VCs would invest in you because, that is definitely, I mean, I felt that in my core just from an end customer perspective of things not happening. I'm not even in the construction space, but things are always pushed back out there more than anywhere else I've ever lived. And so that's really awesome. So, who's the customer then? Is it the developer or, who?
Sure. So we work primarily with the real estate developers and the project owners, and that's by design. The reason I choose to work with them is a big reason why we see construction projects failing isn't because of the isn't because of the construction phase itself, but it's because of certain decisions that are made in the pre-construction phase that get compounded to in the construction phase. And as the owner or the project owner and real estate developer, they are the ones responsible for effectively communicating their requirements and kind of taking ownership of that project pre-construction phase properly in order to make sure the project goes off on the right track. So we work with the project owners in the pre-construction phase to support them in executing certain activities such as the technical and commercial evaluations from their supply chain, contract review and evaluation. So any areas where there is an agreement between certain stakeholders and certain requirements being communicated, we utilize AI technologies to make sure they are um, robust and everyone's kind of on the same page in a way. But we do it very much quicker than the current existing process, so it frees up people to do other
Yeah.
things.
I mean, it should be a no-brainer, but that's a very hard target to get into and to pitch to. So we'll get to that in a second. I want to know how you're doing that and see if I can share some golden nuggets of wisdom on that. But what's the price point? Because
Yeah.
this is a client that would not be interested if it's $100 a month. It's got to actually be costly to make them trust that it's valuable, I think.
Yeah, that's an interesting point when it comes to price point because you're right. Certain things, especially in the Middle East, actually, if it's cheap, it's not. If it's too cheap, should we say, it's not valued in some ways. So you're absolutely right, and I have noticed some of that. So our pricing point and how we kind of reached our pricing point was we assessed who is doing the work that we are somewhat automating at the moment, and the current state in the Middle East and in many parts of the world is project owners because their core business is not construction. Their core business might be you're the Ministry of Transport. Your core business is operating the transport network in the country, but you need consultants in order to help you capture your scope and capture your requirements and manage the construction process. So, in its current state, project owners and real estate developers spend a significant amount of money on employing external consultants to help them to fill in their knowledge of construction, the gap in knowledge. So our pricing point really initially was looking at how much is this stuff currently taking them, and how can we reduce that by 5x, 10x, and we kind of went in from that approach in. So it's yeah. So for any one client, depending on the large volume, it could be a few $100,000 a year, and we cover the entire scope of that work, and they could be saving themselves not only monetary value in terms of reducing the amount of consultancy needed by say 4 5x, but also in time, which no one has enough of.
Wow. So it's normally like a multi-million-dollar consultant team that comes in that you're
Yeah,
replacing.
yeah, yeah. In some
That's
cases,
amazing.
yeah.
It's a good thing you're in Saudi. You might get killed if you're in England. Someone in the industry would find you, mate.
No, no. Truth be told, I am. I mean, my background was for the last 15 years. I've been in engineering consultancy, so it would have been the likes of myself that project owners would have recruited, employed to do the work. And engineering consultancy as an industry hasn't changed as much as say other industries. So, and again, this is a reason why I quit my job to move into AI because I saw what AI can do and will do in the future, and I really see a big disruption to the engineering consultancy and project
Absolutely.
management space for sure.
Oh yeah. I mean, I had a call a week ago with a guy that owns just a software development agency, and he was like, I'm prophesizing 20 million engineers across the board, not just tech and software engineers, are going to be out of jobs in the next 5 to 10 years because AI can do it better. And nobody's really talking about that because they're also kind of the most arrogant, high paid people
Yeah,
that every industry's just been giving them a back massage for the last 2 generations. So it's going to be interesting, but I love that. I love the positivity of that. Like the people, just even using the pandemic as an example, the people that adapted to things that the pandemic caused beforehand barely felt it. I've been working remotely for 20 years, did not really, my whole company is fully remote since day one, did not really affect me. But the people who were, no, I don't need to do that, were crushed. And it's the same thing. We're getting another wave of that. People like you who adapt because you're like, I see this coming. I'm going to be the master of the AI before the AI is the master of me, are probably going to do very well. And so that's amazing. And I think you're the first person that I've spoken to that was like, I see this coming. I'm going to build for this, and um, love it. So,
So you
and
had
I
the
love
home,
the price point too. I think that's what
home
I was
office set up.
envisioning.
Yeah, so you had the home
Sorry.
office. You had the home office set up well in advance of 2020. Then on your
I
side.
mean, not home office. I was too remote. I was doing 10 plus countries a year. I was doing a lot of public speaking. And, I take this Silicon Valley growth mindset. I like to speak at conferences in your neck of the woods. I can't remember the conference in London that I always go to in the O2 and speak, but there's EU Startups Fest, Startup Day. I've spoke all over the world, in Riyadh as well, at Step in Dubai, and yeah, and so I was doing that, and so yeah, locking down didn't mean anything. I came to Mexico where there was no outbreak, and I mean there was no COVID, and we were fine. But um, but anyway, my point was, I think that's the right pricing and the right mindset. Like, cost savings, even though outwardly in the Middle East they say it's not a big thing, it is, because it is. And I think that's a big lever, but really it's the speed. Like, I even felt that pain. And so a lot of times when I'm working with B2B SaaS companies, they really harp on the cost savings, but it's the speed that's the most important thing. Because even the time it takes to hire the right agency could be months.
Yeah.
I have a I have a client in the very high ticket, like 7-figure B2B SaaS AI space that sells in the Middle East, and they sell to like Etisalat and STC and those kind of companies, and it's a multi-year closing sales process. So that means that STC is not getting what they need for a whole year. They're still dealing with outdated systems. So velocity is the key word right now, and I'll give you that advice off the beginning. Just really trying like a V2 of landing pages and removing the cost savings, because it's understood that you can say 10x less and 10x faster, and it's still, you will see the 10x faster, I think, is the closing thing, even though in the back of their mind they know it. They obviously know that AI is cheaper than 10 consultants,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I think that's something I'm seeing resonating in like outbound LinkedIn and stuff like that, is that the word velocity is really getting people excited. That's about AI. But okay, how, this is the golden question. How are you getting these completely elusive real estate developers, like the decision makers at those companies, to meet with you?
Sure. So it's in the initial stage, shall we say, for the first year of the business, shall we say, it was primarily founder-led sales. So I had worked in the region. I'd worked for a number of different companies, so I had quite a good network of people that are in quite high positions in quite a lot of the companies out here. So the first initial people that I reached out to were the people that I had already previously worked with. Sorry. So that door was kind of already open, and the trust was already there because of a past working relationship. Um, so that allowed us to get through the kind of initial piloting stages of just, let's get this into some of people's hands so that we can get feedback about the product, like how we're getting on. Since then, what we do more is, what we've kind of started doing now is referral schemes. So referral kind of, as someone kind of refers us to someone, and if we close that contract with that person, we give quite a high commission to that person just for that referral. Um, Now, we don't offer this referral to everyone. We offer it to quite higher level individuals that have higher level contacts. So we say, rather than introducing me to this level, then I have to work my way up to that person. So that seemed to be, and because of the size of the ARR, or the size of the contract, I even say 5-10% off that is quite a good, considerable incentive for these individuals to make referrals, shall
Yeah,
we say.
absolutely. Yeah, if you've already got the connections. I say this all the time. Nothing better than waking up to a check that's been sent from just making a referral. It's the best feeling. I'm like, oh wow, okay, that's awesome. Because again, making money helping people is the goal. And with this project, I mean, you're helping people at the end of the day, save a ton of time, a ton of money, and finish these projects. I mean, the Middle East is littered with projects that have failed. I mean, maybe not so much in Saudi, but you see the cement skeletons, and so it's a real problem. It's an eyesore. It decreases confidence in the region. You know, like the what is it the line project went from like 150 kilometers down to like they're going to do it at 1 kilometer now, and so we need to increase confidence in the region, and that's what you guys are doing. And uh, I'm going to share a bunch of gold on that, but random off topic. Have you seen the film Hologram for the King?
Do you know you're the second person this week to say that to me? I haven't. I know it's about the CAC project in Jeddah in the for the where they
It's
were building.
about
Yeah,
a foreign guy that comes to Saudi to sell software to the king, and it's like a
yeah.
3D VR version of Skype, basically back in the day. But it's
Hmm.
Tom Hanks, incredible film, but you'll just feel the pain. Like I was saying, the bukra inshallah, like tomorrow, hopefully thing. That's what he deals with, and so I think that the referral scheme is genius. It's not as scalable as you would think but you're right in saying only to the right key people. Because if you just give it to anybody, they're going to waste your time a lot.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that's key, especially knowing the region. You're unlikely to get really high level decision makers for this industry to convert from LinkedIn. I still think you should do LinkedIn stuff because you want to be really well known in the space. You want to build a large network. When you're in Saudi and you get 10, 15,000 followers on LinkedIn, you start getting invited to speak at conferences, and you just raise your profile, and the next funding round gets considerably easier. I mean, it sounds like it's going to be easy for you anyway. You've already got some clients. It's a high ticket product. It's really useful. All you really need is those solid case studies. If you can prove that, the funding will be easy. But um,
So
one
when you
thing I
say
want to say, go ahead.
so when you say LinkedIn in terms of, is that LinkedIn from the perspective of, because what I've noticed now in the trend is people buy from people rather than buying from company websites. So
Correct.
those are the case that the recommendation is building up the personal brand from LinkedIn by showcasing, not selling the product, but just being interesting and communicating subject matter expertise, should we say?
Exactly. You took the words right out of my mouth. I think like it's unlikely you're going to get a lot of clients out of LinkedIn, but you'll get known in the industry. You'll start the conversations in the boardrooms and the teams and then when a project falls short and someone's like, "Oh, I saw this guy on LinkedIn." Maybe there'll be some inbound, but it's really about building your network, growing you as a founder. It sounds like your network converted some early customers, so like continuing to start that word of mouth and massage that really makes sense. It's not a expensive thing, and I think it'll pay dividends down the line. Because Saudi is a tech hub. There are conferences there. Like you should be speaking at stuff. So there's really two things with like a founder's personal brand for you. It's the like the industry specific stuff. So we want to get you speaking at um, you know construction conferences, real estate conferences, stuff like that. Like how many people are building innovative AI stuff in the region for that industry? Not many. You should be able to get to share what your company is doing or how AI can revolutionize the construction industry in the Middle East or globally. And then that talk will get invited to speak, And so I think that's low hanging fruit, and that's really more important. And we can talk more about that. But then the other side of that is just raising the profile as a startup founder and as a tech company in the Middle East. Like you just want people to know what you're doing. I mean, that's why you come on this show. This is not targeted to the construction or even the Middle East. I had a big following in the Middle East for a while as a marketer. So there'll definitely be, 10% audience listening because of my LinkedIn there. But more importantly is the targeted stuff. So you want to do both, but it's the targeted stuff that's really going to bring like opportunity. And when you're in construction and you're in an old school industry and a kind of more old school place where things are really still face to face, do you know what the word wasta means yet?
No, but
You
tell
didn't
me.
learn that? You didn't learn that? Wasta is like your connections. Like it's the stuff that you did in the beginning. You used your Wasta to get the first few interviews. He's writing it down, everyone that's listening. So yeah, your Wasta, like it I almost never left the Middle East because Wasta is the greatest thing. I'm a super extroverted person. I'm of Arab descent, but born and raised in America. Didn't know any Arabic when I was growing up. And I moved to Dubai and I showed a deep passion for the culture, got pretty good at Arabic, and I noticed that people just really love that and respect that. And like, I'm not gonna say anything, but I had a really good life. I'll just put it that way, like that. It was very irreplaceable in any other place. And there's like it's like the golden handcuffs. It's hard to leave the Middle East or the Khalij states, at least
Yeah.
the Gulf states, after you have set up really good wasta, because you just know you're taken care of in case anything ever happens. Oh, I accidentally overstayed this visa. No problem, Andrew. It's fine. I took care of it. I'm like, oh wow, thanks, bro. Or like, I lost my passport. No, we got you a new passport. It's like that crazy, I mean, like, but it's an amazing place where like respect is the number one currency, and that I wish it was like that in other places. And so building that authority can be really, really valuable there, right? And so that's one part of it. Another thing that I've seen work really well for the older school elusive like targets in the Middle East is events. And I have talked about this recently in the podcast, so it might sound like a broken record to anybody that's listening to every episode. But specifically for Riyadh, like you said, you're missing out on extracurricular activities. You don't have to worry about buying alcohol or anything like that in there. So it's actually very cost effective to do events at a hotel. And if you, as a British startup founder, you might be able to do an event at the embassy or the UK or England or whatever consulate embassy. Like they do want to highlight tech companies. So then you have a little bit more leeway with extracurricular stuff. I won't say any more details there, but watch the Hologram for the King movie. You'll know what I mean. But my point is, I can't understate how much people want something to do, and using that, like, come to the Future of Construction in the MENA region conference, and you're the keynote speaker, and then like three other non-competitive tech companies that are in the construction space or in the real estate space. And it could be as little as 3 hours, and there's canapes, and it costs you like nothing, because and so reaching out to consular people that are doing startup related stuff, you would be surprised at how they're like, oh my God, yeah, we'd love to do this, and we'll bring out 3 more startups from the UK. And like and then you get to personally invite all these people that you would not otherwise get to meet with you. I mean, even this podcast as an example, this initially started as a customer acquisition tool for me, because people that are raising funds are our target market, and 100 times more people respond to, hey, do you want to come on this podcast, than, hey, are you looking for marketing help? And so
Sure.
it really does work when you massage their ego. Like, not that I did that for you, but I mean, like, people want, it's the same thing in the Middle East. So if you give them the opportunity to come, you'll be able to also get the press there, and then you can meet like golf news and whatever, like the biggest podcasters. Everyone will come to that event, whether they're in construction or just local media, and you get content, you can get influencers, you can get media, you can, and then obviously hopefully some sales conversations come out of that. So I think when I hear founder-led sales works, my network, those are the two main ways that I want to like expand that and double down on that. I was asking you,
Yeah,
is
if I had any
questions
questions,
on
yeah.
that, and we can just take
Yeah.
off from there. So any questions on that so far?
So no, so I completely agree in terms of the industry, the events. I agree as well, but you positioned it in a nice way in terms of people want something to do in this part of the world, and giving them something to do on a day that could be relative of interest to them. It's much easier to get people to come to an event here than it would be, say, if I was back home in the UK or other
Yes,
parts of the world. So that's a really good way
exactly.
of seeing it. So yeah, events we were looking to do in December. The profile agreed and the industry agreed. No, I think, and the Wasta, I suppose, I just see that as use the force. So
Yeah, I mean, like, the Wasta is like, you're incentivizing it already with the referral thing, but money doesn't work as much for those high level people out there. So, you know, they're going to get a considerable amount of money, but I think an experience is even better. Like, if you help us close a deal, we'll take you on a trip to the UK, and you can come and see, like something like that. It
yeah,
actually maybe costs even less, but it's,
true.
that client I was just mentioning, we're actually bringing someone from Etisalat out to the Seattle office. So they're an Egyptian company with an office in Seattle. And like, Etisalat's already a customer. We have
Yeah.
no real reason to bring them out. Like we don't really have an office in Seattle. It's just like, this founder working there,
Mhm.
but it's about an expansion. So you bring them out, you have some fun a few days. And the guy was, they were trying to sell him on this expansion for a long time, and it was not super interested. And they're like, well, why don't you come out and spend a couple days and you hang out with us in the US? Yeah, absolutely. I would love to do that. You know what I mean? And so then they're going to have his undivided attention for a week, and they're going to get that expansion because he's there. And so, that's not even $10,000 for another $1 million, multi-million a year. And so, um, but the events don't need to be very costly. And you
Mhm.
can even invite the C-level person to come and speak at this thing. Like, hey, we
Yeah.
want you to speak about what your company's doing to innovate. And then, like, when they say, well, we're not really innovating, you go, oh, well, maybe it would make sense for us to chat, even without having to do the event. Like you don't even have to put the event together. You can just reach out and offer it. Um, but yeah, I think
That's a good way of
those are
saying
the
it.
key things that I think will work out there. I mean, when I was really successful in marketing, it was B2C, so it's definitely different. But that's when I noticed that region is like 50% digital, 50% offline, still a
Mhm.
lot. And it was definitely a while ago, but it still holds true. Let's talk about the digital stuff. Like there, even when there is like not super innovative old school industry what we're playing in, I
Mhm.
still think it makes sense to publicize a white paper. And a white paper can literally be as basic as the future of AI for the construction industry.
Mhm.
And if you literally go to Google, and if that exact white paper doesn't exist, you can use that to publicize the brand globally and pitch it to all construction media. So there's obvious, you mentioned, I think maybe before we were recording, you're already getting some customers in the US as well. That's super exciting. We're like, the US is pretty like early adopter focused with AI stuff, but we're also reaching a bit of a burnout, but maybe not in the construction space. But so doing research, seeing if that already exists, if like another company has already jumped on that future of blank for blank thing, and with AI, it's not super difficult to write the white paper, but you definitely don't want to publish anything direct from AI like dashes or things that are any bold letters that are obvious. But you rewrite it so it's not plagiarism, and you get to 20, 30 pages, and it's not salesy. It's
Yeah.
not like Trubuild is the future. It's just or organic, unbiased. These are what our future expectations are for the industry with AI. And then there's a couple paragraphs at the end about Trubuild, and you use those. You can even do your own report. Like, let's say you do that outreach, like I talked about, to invite people to come and speak at the event. But in that is a question like, yes or no, are you using AI yet at your company?
Mhm.
You get 100 responses. Turns out only 5% of construction companies or real estate developers are using AI that responded to you. That small sample is enough to put it out to all the media. We just did a report on our own. Only 5% of construction companies in 2025 are using AI. You'd be unbelievably surprised how powerful that is to the media. It's no longer we're asking for you to write about us. It's I'm giving you gold that you can go talk about. That's a headline story for any construction news outlet. Turns out only based because of Truebuild, and they will give you a hyperlink. It'll be unbelievable inbound traffic. It doesn't always lead to meetings right away. There's some I'll go into it right now. The way to get meetings out of that, if you do get that PR, is we have a pop-up that asks them to download that white paper, and that usually gets the email address and
Yeah.
then forwards the email to you, or you get a notification, and then you go, oh wow, you know the URL because you've been in the space for 10 years. Like, I know that company. And then you check the guy on LinkedIn or girl, you follow up directly, and
Mhm.
you'd be so blown away at the difference in the sales cycle when someone comes to you versus when
Mhm.
you go to them. It's like
And,
a month versus a year usually.
and
So
how frequently or infrequently should white papers generally be kind of pushed out by companies, or like say
once
once,
only, once
once
only, and then assessed. Yeah, I mean, like if you're going to do that future of, I mean, AI is changing the game on how frequently things are done. Like, I mean, 2 months ago, we were in a totally different world than we're in now with like the recent stuff that Google launched. So old rules don't necessarily apply because my first AI startup that I worked at was in 2014, and I did this white paper thing in 2016, and it led to an exit of the company, and we never even launched the product. Like legitimately, we had 20 engineers, ML guys from Google, and Travelocity was in the travel space that were building like a personalization tool, like an algorithm for personalizing hotel and flight search. So a potentially $1 billion thing. And we had a pilot with eDreams in the UK, and
Nice.
the pilot was successful, and we got acquired, not by eDreams, by somebody else that moved much faster. No offense to companies in Europe moving slow. Someone in San Francisco was like, "We'll take that," but it was 100% driven by the marketing of that white paper. So
Oh,
without
okay.
AI, I spent 2 months myself researching and writing a white paper. I'm not even an engineer. I had to liaise with people that were in the know constantly, and then write this thing, and we put it out with a bunch of marketing juice behind it. So I was simultaneously building a list of all the media. Um, I can go into that really quickly. You know what Google Alerts are? You know Google
Yes.
Alerts? So you set up Google Alerts for construction news, construction conference, construction daily, construction startup, construction podcast, all of these terms. And it can be a marketing intern. You know, if you're in Saudi, definitely lean on getting good interns because you've got amazing universities there. The students are just so hungry to work at a real innovative AI startup, and then eventually can get hired up into the company. So it's probably a little bit below your pay grade to be doing this, but if you get a marketing intern on this stuff, or hire a marketing agency or a consultant that I might know, we could do it for you. But you build this press list over time. That's what PR companies charge for, is they have this Rolodex. So if there's a PR company for construction industry, could be valuable because they're saving you 6 to 12 months of building this really powerful list of contacts. Like you mentioned, like you started growing the company through your connections. That's what a publicist in the construction space can do for you, but you can also build it. I mean, I never ever used a PR agency. I taught myself from working at companies that didn't have the funds to hire them. So you craft a story, you build a list, and then you pitch the story to that list. That's all PR is.
Yeah.
So one of the easiest things could be, we put out this survey. We surveyed hundreds of companies in the construction space to find out that only 5% of companies are using AI in construction. That little tidbit, if you write the press release around that, which is really easy,
Yeah.
um, you push that out to the media contacts that you built slowly over time. Then you can see, okay, we got a couple articles. It's good for SEO. We got this traffic, but it should also bring some leads. Like people should then click on it. And the website's fantastic, by the way. Not great for SEO, the beautiful construction video, but it's enough to make me, especially in Saudi and like Dubai type places, be like, okay, yeah, we need to work with these guys. It gives the luxury sense, which people that haven't worked in the region might not know why that's important, but it is. If you look like a little startup that's not doing $1 million developments, then nobody's going to give you access to their $1 billion development, you know?
Yeah. That's true.
So there's a give and take there. That might be the first time ever I've said on recording that I like a highly designed website, because as an SEO professional, I want a
Mm.
boring, text heavy website that has no moving parts so that Google can find you. But it's not likely for this business that a company is going to go to Google and search AI tools for construction. And if they do, that's just a simple blog post that it will
And
come
adds
up
up.
on its own. The homepage of the website doesn't need to come up for that.
Yeah.
It's more going to be the outbound of reaching out and the inbound of someone coming to an event or someone reading an article about you that are really going to grow the company. Does that make sense?
No, it does. It does. So from the different kind of enterprises that you've been at, so from our side, and we're kind of going through that growing stage, shall we say, in terms
Yeah.
of, so we initially kind of started as B2B, and I suppose B2B and B2E is very similar, but now we're just wholly focused on B2E enterprise level, just because of we see that's where the, obviously not only the from the financial perspective, but also we see that's where the true value can be realized from the stuff that we're trying to do for people.
Yeah.
And then, and in light of that, we're seeing the way in which our outbound and the type of people that we need to have doing that kind of outreach and business development. it's looking like it's a lot more consultancy led sales in terms of the people that we have in the business development team need to have some type of construction background and understanding. Because of that, enterprise people that we're speaking to, it's we're kind of going through from a consultancy, like, hey, what's your processes at the moment? How are you managing this process? All right, cool. How have you thought about this? And then that kind of leads into a sale, which could be a few months down the stream. But it's
Wow.
definitely a construction consultancy minds background person that I'm having to bring in to do this, rather than a general kind of B2B or B2E. What's
That's
your
good. I
kind of,
mean,
I suppose?
yeah. So, I mean, that's good to know this early in the game. I think that the more you know who you're looking for, the better. And it makes sense. Like it's literally 50-50. I had a guy on the podcast a couple weeks ago that was in the restaurant space, and he asked me, it's an AI software for restaurateurs. And he was like, do I need to hire people in sales that have restaurant experience? And I was like, no, they need sales experience for that, because it's literally just, the founder has the experience. And so you can still it's okay if you meet with like really big sales opportunities, if they want to meet with you. And so, but it sounds like this, because it's enterprise, it's not a 1 30-minute meeting and then done thing, right? They need to understand the pain points. They need to be able to follow up and then speak the language of that customer. And that's why the industry specific knowledge is important. I think that it's going to be difficult to find that out in the region. So,
Mhm.
what it's not difficult to do is to find that talent in England and bring them there, because they are, especially wait till like September and it gets a little bit rainier and the weather's nice. Like June, July, August in England, everyone's having a great time. The weather's nice. They're like, I'm
Yeah,
not fucking leaving, mate. This is fantastic.
yeah,
But I
yeah.
told myself I wasn't going to do a British accent, and I still did it. But anyway, no,
No,
I think
it's a
like,
good point you mentioned there, though, which is we are seeing that, and I mean, we've got one person to come in now, but the next one, the issues that I was very very stuck on just getting someone from this market, because I could many different friends and really qualified people in the UK or even the States that I know could do really good on the role, but um, then there's the local knowledge and local contacts and local kind of.
yes.
I suppose they can acquire that over 6 months, and over time they
They can
can.
acquire it. I think you can do a seminar where like you acquaint them with the culture, but you also talk to them through that on the interview process. You don't want a piss head coming out there that's going to like make his
Yeah,
own alcohol in the
yeah,
bathtub. You need somebody that's like going to maybe, I mean, Dubai also has a lot more
it
people,
does.
and people are willing to move to Saudi. I mean, like I've been to Dubai recently, and people are like, oh yeah, thinking of moving to Saudi. There's more opportunities. And so hiring there, like, and maybe expanding a little bit to like people in real estate with consultancy experience. They still like understand it one way or the other. And so, but I think, yeah, like anytime you're offering a relocation, you end up getting access to a larger talent pool, but also like you can, yeah, you can find someone faster. And I think that, how do I want to delicately say this? For my 5+ years in the region, honestly, like all the top sales earners and closers are British, straight up,
Okay, interesting.
like across any industry. And so I think like, maybe that's because they're out there hustling, and like the people that come out to that region are there to crush it and build a life for themselves. And they're there for a purpose. It's not
Interesting.
like they're just in the UK because that's where their parents are from. Like the type of person that's like, yeah, I'm going to uproot me and my family and move to the Middle East because I believe in. It's just like you taking that risk to leave your company and build this AI thing because this is coming. Like, do people want to get on the ship? And so I think that you'd be surprised. I think so. You try everything legally in Saudi. I think you have to look for talent domestically first. I think there's something like that, like
Yeah.
affirmative action type. What's it called? I
Oh,
can't think of what it's called in Saudi. But so you should look there because it's easier, but you should hold everybody to a really high standard. So it's
yeah.
not just, I'm not a sales expert, but it's an easily quantifiable thing, much easier than marketing. Like I'm bounded by NDAs with like 90% of my clients. Like most of my case studies are from pre 2020 and a little bit after, because they don't want people to know that they grew with a consultant. But a salesperson has like provable targets that they hit.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
my wife is in high ticket sales, and she's 52% close rate of high ticket sales over the last year, done over $1 million in closed business. And so
Would she
you
be
say
interested in
that
joining us?
you say that what?
Would she be interested in joining us?
I don't think she wants to move to Saudi, but and she doesn't have the construction space. Actually, what she sells now is really interesting. She just got a new job yesterday. Actually, she sells a $10,000 coaching program, a dating coaching program for some massive dating podcast. So
Yeah,
like it's actually two guys that give dating advice to wealthy women. So
yeah,
she closed it. So yeah, so she's
that's interesting. I wasn't
closing
expecting
deals for them. Like she's very pro female. I mean, we all are, but like she's like excited to only sell to women for for a long time.
that.
Whereas real construction in the Middle East is like the exact opposite of that.
Yeah,
And like it's I think you would be smart to bring on female salespeople. Definitely. Like I don't agree with the outward looking into the Middle East thing that people say that it's terrible for a woman. It's amazing, and there's a lot of respect for women out in the Middle East, and like
absolutely.
female business people crush it in the Middle East. There's actually a lot more respect towards women than in the
I agree.
UK and stuff. You agree? And so I think that you should definitely make a bias towards testing every type of salesperson.
Yeah.
Um,
And
there are some like you know, I don't hold anything back on this, and I do need to let you go in a little bit, but uh, there are benefits to having someone from the UK or US as like a lead salesperson. Like I noticed when I was in sales, I first started in Dubai. I started a marketing agency with an Indian business partner, and he was
yeah,
like, "You're going to be our head of sales." I was like, "I don't have any sales experience." He's like, "It doesn't fucking matter. You're American." And I was like,
yes,
"What?"
yeah,
And I went into clients, and they're like, "Yeah, yeah, this is America. Yep, yep, we want to work with you." And the positive belief because of Netflix and the content that we put out culturally,
yeah,
it's still
yes,
there, and
it is.
so
It
it
is.
will. People just want to meet with you because you're this. There's this AI startup from the UK, and it's a sales guy with a name like Brian or Andrew, and
Yeah.
at the early stage of a company, you might not like what I'm saying if you're listening to this,
No,
but
no,
you use no, not you, but like somebody might
no.
be like, oh, that's wrong. You use whatever you can to your advantage, period. And um, you know, it is the truth. I have clients in India that we do outreach for them, and they're like, "Yeah, can we make a new LinkedIn that says Andrew?" And I'm like, "No, no, your name is fine." They're like, "We've seen the data already. People respond less to an Indian name than they do in the Middle East specifically too." To a UK sounding name, and it is just that it's a macroeconomic problem,
Yeah,
socioeconomic problem, but it is true. And so we have to um, use everything we can to our advantage. So you take all that into consideration. So the three things with a salesperson are, you want to look at their close record. Can they prove this? Like, can you speak to someone they've worked with that they're a fucking hustler and they close deals? Because this kind of a stuff, like it might be multiple touches to go and get the person,
it
and
is.
if you're a company that's going to support them with events and PR, there's going to be leads coming in, but you want to focus on someone that wants to hunt, because a lot of the salespeople, they just want to take meetings that are already lined up. So that's a
Yeah,
big differentiator is, are you willing to hunt? Like we can give you a list. You need to call, you need to go to the office, you need to send in, like literally go to events they're going to be at. Like it's that crazy
hmm
in that region. And so that's important. And that's the most important thing. If that talent is local, yalla, go for it. If that talent is not local, then don't be scared to bring someone over,
No,
because it's
I think you're spot on with lots of
that's how
things.
I got to the region, by the way. I was living in Mexico, and I posted on Craigslist back in the day that I'm an international marketing expert. This was like 1 year after uni. I posted international marketing expert, and now it's true, but before it was a lie. Startups, we fake it till we make it. But
Yeah,
I had one success right after college, and then I was like, okay, now I'm a genius expert or whatever. And this guy was like, come out and start a marketing agency with me. And I had a call. I was like, all right, buy my flight and we'll figure out the rest. And then he bought my flight, got me a hotel for a week in Dubai, and we hashed it out there. And it was like an ungodly low salary. Like I won't even mention how low it was, but commission, no
yeah,
ceiling on the commissions and equity in the agency. And then one of our clients led me into figuring out what startups were. And I mean, I had a startup in college, but loving that was my home, and the rest is history. So people in the UK are just looking for the opportunity. And like, you can go on LinkedIn and search that specific thing and just do some actual like founder led, like that's an hour of your time. Hey mate, I saw you have an incredible background. Would you ever be interested in helping me build this company? Like, here's a news article about the money we just raised. We're doing big things. Like, AI is going to kill a lot of jobs. Saudi's blowing up. I'd love to get you to come over, try it out for 6 months. We take care of relocation. Like, I'll take that call. Most people will be like, yeah, okay, we'll chat. So, all right. Any last minute questions before I kick you off, sir?
No, I really enjoyed the conversation. Growth, digital, B2E, type enterprise,
It's a lot.
investment, where the money's going. It's cool. It's I would definitely like to keep in touch with you. I think there's lots.
Absolutely. No, yeah. And, I don't do a good enough job on selling the company here, but like, I do the marketing consultancy in the company. We have other fractional experts on sales, business development, partnerships, and like, you can bring in a senior like expert in those things fractionally to come and build out those processes. And we even have a fractional head of talent. He's ex Amazon. He doesn't have the Middle East experience I do, but like that, he develops hiring practices, policies, best practices on applicant tracking software, and does all that stuff. And so that's really what Growth Experts does, is like marketing and recruitment consultancy. But in the recruitment, we do fractional stuff. And a lot of startups these days are doing that, like bringing in a fractional expert instead of hiring full-time right away, because it works a little bit for the founder. You bring in like a senior 20-year expert part-time for like $5,000 a month, and then they take it one step further. And then once you're really confident that these processes work, then you can start building out a full-time team. Because to be honest, $1 million is not a big round. Like, you're going to need to start raising as soon as you close the next client, probably. But if you close 5 clients, then you never need to raise any money at all. You just keep closing deals.
Yeah, we're in that kind of decision. Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree. And we also went down the fractional route for some of the roles, and
oh, nice.
In some areas now, we're kind of pushing them into more full time. So we're moving people now to full time staff for some key roles, but the initial starts was definitely fractional for areas that requires an initial kind of setup, and then we can kind of, as Zachary said, it requires an initial experience, setup, process.
Love to hear that. Love to hear that. Okay, Mr. Degefa, where can people find Trubuild and you online?
They can find us at www.trubuild.io. They can find me on LinkedIn, or if they fancy, they can capture me or find me in a coffee shop in Riyadh here in Saudi. Welcome anytime.
And unlike Andrew Miller, it's easy to find Bisrat Degefa online. There probably is a couple. It does sound a little common last name in Ethiopia, but I think you're easy to find. Thank you so much for joining us, sir, and wishing you all the best with the company.
Really good to meet you, Andrew. Speak soon.
That has been another episode of the Funded Now What podcast with your host, Andrew Lee Miller, brought to you by Growth Experts. If you liked this episode, please subscribe. And if you really liked it, please share with other founders and entrepreneurs. Thanks. And we'll see you in the next episode.